Things just took a major turn for the Los Angeles Lakers as a brand new report has dropped surrounding Al Horford and the Los Angeles Lakers, and things have taken a turn that is very surprising. We're going to break down that exact report and discuss what this means going forward, as well as a few other updates on this episode, folks. Before we get into it all, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Lakers content. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys again for your continued support over here as we're on the road to 30,000 subscribers, the smaller goal of 25,000. Folks, obviously, Rob Pelinka is in the middle of what's going to be a crucial offseason. With Summer League happening right now, they have some young players that are performing well, but most importantly, we have some updates to go over today. And as you look at some of their projected roster, there is still a hole on the team in a few different ways. But a surprising new report has dropped here surrounding Al Horford of all players. And of course, we all just assumed, and I've reported on videos, people and reporters were reporting it, especially Mark Stein, that the Warriors and Al Horford were nearing an agreement last week, and that things on that front were basically all but done and all but confirmed. And then yesterday, a brand new report has dropped revealing not only are the Lakers still interested in Al Horford, something seemed to have happened between the Warriors and, of course, Al. As you can see here, the Lakers may not be done making roster moves this summer. They do have DeAndre Ayton and Jackson Hayes, as well as Maxi Kleber, but they're still in strong pursuit of Al Horford. Even after Ayton signed with the Lakers on July 2nd, it was reported they were in strong pursuit of Horford. And then, of course, 2 weeks after that report, he's remained unsigned. And we know that essentially, Celtics aren't going to be going after him, so we assume the Warriors would. But according to Mark Spears of ESPN, LA, the Lakers, are very interested and still interested in the 39-year-old center/power forward. So this now becomes extremely interesting because, like I showed you here off the jump, it's at a point where the Lakers have a bunch of front court depth, but is it good enough to win a championship? Of course, you have DeAndre Ayton. You assume, he will be the starting center for the team, and of course, beyond that, how much do you trust? Also recently signed, I guess at the beginning, a few weeks ago, Jackson Hayes. But if you bring out Horford in, that moves Jackson Hayes back down to the third string center spot, which I think, I don't know exactly if Jackson Hayes would be happy with that. That might be the best spot for him on a championship team, just because he had some very good stretches with Luka. Going from the starter to the third string center would kind of just show how much depth, Rob Pelinka has brought in. But here's the full report before we dive into it some more. Golden State obviously was expected to sign him last week. He didn't. The Lakers, Milwaukee, Atlanta, I believe, are also interested in a nearly 40-year-old guy who has retirement on the table. He's still considering retiring, and he's not in any hurry. He's got a sixth kid coming on the way. Sixth kid is crazy. He lives in Atlanta and Boston this offseason, but I'm hearing that whether it's Golden State or a lesser extent, if it's the Lakers, being away from family that far isn't going to be in that decision. And he's coming off a very good year. Obviously, he's a veteran. He's considering retiring to, pursue family things. And of course, he's been around the league for so long. I really like the move here if they're able to get him. And obviously, at this point, is that their number one priority? No, they need to go ahead. They need to get a point of attack defender. They need to get a lot of holes filled in this lineup because the bench is looking pretty bleak right now. Of course, you have Gabe Vincent. Bronny James has taken some steps forward. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets some minutes. But aside from Jake LaRavia and that's about it, unless you can hope for a Dalton Knecht resurgence here. He is still young, only second year in the NBA next year. Your bench scoring is pretty rough. And will Al Horford fix that? Obviously, he's not like a direct scorer, but I think he would help not only, DeAndre and take some pressure off of him. He could be a very good backup center to help kind of manage that bench unit. He's a very good passer. He's a very solid shooter. And against certain matchups, having a stretch five is crucial, especially for Luka Doncic and LeBron James, who both play very downhill. Both are, fantastic passers. I think having a stretch five, and I think that's where the Lakers kind of come from here. Like, obviously, they're in strong pursuit of him. And it's because of the fact that he fits so well, and having a stretch five in the NBA at this point is very crucial. And we saw last year he averaged 9 points, 6 rebounds, and a block a game. So things now become very interesting. You can see this here, kind of the justification for this move. He'll be a better option off the bench at the 5 than either Hayes or Kleber, and perhaps a massively better one as he can contribute in multiple areas and perhaps even be a glue guy of sorts. Horford could also be the fallback option for LA should Ayton, who had attitude problems, not pan out. I think, Ayton's going to be fine, but it is true. Like, you get a winner, you get a, proven winner. He won literally championship the year before last year with the Celtics. You have a guy who can help manage that bench unit. And then if you have an Austin Reaves and Al Horford bench unit, and of course, Reaves is going to start, but we saw last year he played point guard a lot for that bench. I mean, that unit then becomes very good. And with Jackson Hayes, I think he's a good complementary piece, especially against certain matchups, but he won't really man the offense like the way that Al Horford can, at least be effective offensively. And it's not like, even though he's approaching his age 40 season a couple years here, age 39 next year, it's not like he's an ineffective player, right? 9 points a game, 6 rebounds, still shooting great from 36%, which is solid for a center. Year before 41, year before 45, which is, ludicrous. He's used to playing off the bench now as well, because the past few years with the Celtics, he started some games, played off the bench for some games. It's just insurance that I think the Lakers would like to have, especially at, maybe a $5 million deal. Now, we think back to the start of the month, before some of these moves went down. You can see here, they offered a $5 million deal to Al Horford with their biannual exception. Now, of course, how much salary they'll still have left to give, all these different things. I mean, DeAnthony Melton is also still on the table here. And for all the talks about how the Warriors were also going to get DeAnthony Melton, they haven't gotten either Al Horford or DeAnthony Melton at this point. So that, of course, begs the question of, are they going to be able to get either? And I think for the Lakers right now, they're probably playing it slow. They're playing the slow game. They're going to see if they can get one of the point of attack defenders first. There's guys like Josh Okogie who are now available in the free agency market. Like, there's a lot of available options here for this Los Angeles Lakers team, and I think all of them will come, it'll all come to fruition very, very soon. But the Lakers were interested in the past. We thought he was going to go to the Warriors, and now the Lakers are right up there at the front line for a guy like Al Horford. And, of course, Bradley Beal as well, assuming, if he gets bought out. It's another player. That's a very likely possibility. So a lot of moves are going to be coming here for this Lakers team, and ultimately they do need to make some moves, because if this is the final team heading into next season, yes, they've gotten better because you replaced, a starting center of Jackson Hayes with a more starting caliber center in DeAndre Ayton. Other than that, I mean, the bench is still a little bit rough. You lost Dorian Finney-Smith, who was, played off the bench a good bit. But at the end of the day, you're hoping for some bounce backs. You're hoping for Jake LaRavia to be able to be a very solid contributing piece. And I think for Jake LaRavia, it'll be an interesting one. And for Al Horford, I think it would be a very, very neat fit. So let me know down below what your thoughts are on Horford. And do you think they should focus on him, or do you think they should actually focus on some of the other holes they have? Because they did ultimately sign Jackson Hayes, who I'm assuming he was under the assumption that he would be the backup center, but things change on a fly in the NBA, and that'll be very interesting. But a couple things before we wrap up here. And I found this screenshot on Twitter, and it's a very interesting one. And it's around, you can see here, execs ring alarms on the 2027 draft. And you can see a tweet here from Trevor Lane. He says the Jazz are never trading with the Lakers again. And it's just a bit of an interesting, hindsight view on what happened with, of course, the Luka trade and things like that. But basically, you can see here, Jonathan Gavoni wrote about the increasing concern NBA executives are expressing about the lack of star power being observed in the 2027 NBA draft, which could shift front office strategies already with summer conversations. And it basically just goes on to talk about how executives are, upset, I guess, or already a bit concerned about the star power in the 2027 draft because of how weak the class is. And I found it interesting because of the fact, of course, the Jazz traded with the Lakers to help facilitate the Luka Doncic trade and all these different things. And obviously, there's a bunch of Danny Ainge, obviously, it's going to be interesting there. But let us know down below what your thoughts are on this. Just wanted to bring that up. Obviously, the Lakers, they're focused on winning now, so the draft is less important to them. But it was an interesting tidbit that dropped, and the Lakers involved in a caveat roundabout way. But that'll wrap it up. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on that, as well as Al Horford. See you guys later.